Welcome into this Friday edition of the weekly Q&A of the Guilty as Charged podcast. My name is Steven. I'm the host. Joining me are Chicken Ritter and Alex Insdorf. Alex, how you doing today, man?
Doing pretty good.
I have to say we got some pretty funny feedback the other day of your use of the F word. So I wanted to commend you again there. One of your funnier moments in the podcast.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, Tyler set it up, so I had to, it's like the Wade, it's like the Wade alley-oop to LeBron. Like I just had to put it down.
That's the one. Tyler, how you doing today, man?
I'm just happy to set up the joke so you can knock them down. Great job, Alex.
Well, we are happy to have you guys here. We're going to go over some Patreon questions first, and then we'll open up to the chat and talk about some fun stuff. Obviously, the draft has concluded, but there's a lot of things to look forward to in the summer. We found out some rookie numbers yesterday. I don't know who the hell decided to let Nick Neiman take number 31, but other than that, I'm cool with all the other numbers. I just think Packers wearing number 31 is super weird. But Alex is excited about Palmer keeping number 5.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
So we're gonna give away another jersey next month for anyone who supports us on Patreon. That's going to be a Patreon exclusive giveaway. Most likely going to be Asante Samuel Jr. because that was far and away the choice.
There's still time for Joshua Palmer to come back in the polls. There's probably like 12 hours left. It's probably
the polls closed. I only did the poll for yesterday night. Yeah, so.
Recount.
I was hoping that somebody would, more people would vote for Palmer or Brendan Hymas. I had a couple of people actually like, I need a Hymas jersey. Like, I'm happy to oblige you as the resident offensive line guy. I will give you an offensive line jersey 100%. All right, let's dive into these questions from Patreon first, and then, like I said, we'll open it up to the chat. And we do have the super chat feature enabled. So once we get to that point, if you want to make sure that we answer your question, make sure and use that feature. So Grant Barron, his first question, what is Josh Palmer's floor and what is his ceiling? Even if Mike Williams signs an extension, could you see Palmer overtaking Williams as a wide receiver 2 in the future? Tyler, we'll let you start with that one. What are your thoughts there?
As far as his floor goes, this is very hard to figure out because he's never played in the NFL. He barely had a horrible quarterback in college. So it's very hard to figure out exactly. Right. But as far as floor goes, I think he will always at least be a consistent wide receiver 3 who can move inside or outside. He's not limited to one or the other. I like his routes enough, and I like his hands enough, which I think it will always keep his floor really steady. I just don't think he'll ever hit, at least if Keenan Allen is healthy, I don't think he'll ever hit Tyrell Williams-like numbers because, he'll have more receptions, I think, but Williams always had that long speed or big strides to turn, plays after the catch into huge plays. As far as ceiling goes, I'm ripping off your guys' comparison of him to Jordy Nelson. I think that was Alex who brought that up.
Mm-hmm.
So like 60, 850, 7 touchdown sort of thing. So his ceiling will always be lower with Keenan out on the field. But that's totally fine. As far as him overtaking Williams, if he signs an extension, no. Like if Williams signs an extension, he's going to be the wide receiver too, unless it's like he goes away somewhere and then signs a new contract in 4 years when he's like a washed up receiver. Like if he signed an extension next year, no, he's not going to overtake Williams as the wide receiver too.
Yeah, so I think his floor. Someone made a comp to Jacoby Jones, which I thought was a little bit interesting. It's like a floor, but yeah, no, his ceiling is definitely closer to like a Jordy Nelson type. But yeah, I'm not too concerned that he'll really hit the floor too hard. I think he'll always, like Tyler said, be a consistent wide receiver 3 at the least. Obviously, a lot of it depends on, do they re-sign Mike Williams? Do they not? But I don't have too many concerns about him hitting the floor just because his outside skills are pretty high.
Yeah, he's a very safe player to me in terms of what he'll be in the NFL because, like Tyler said and Alex have said, he runs routes at a very high level. He's got great hands. And I did interview Trey Wallace from one of the Tennessee websites, and something that we talked about is, he played, like, his hockey background really helped him because he played goalkeeper, and you have to be able to, adjust on the fly, react, and you can see the way that he tracks the balls and the way that he catches balls that you can kind of see where that hockey goalkeeper background could come into play. So People are ready to hear some F-bombs. I love it. So yeah, I think his floor is relatively safe. It's going to be very interesting because we've never really seen, at least on the Chargers, like two guys who can really run routes at a high level. It's always been, you get two vertical guys, a route runner, and so it's going to be interesting to see how they use him, going forward. If Williams is on the roster, I have a hard time thinking that he would overtake him as wide receiver 2 unless we get like a year and another year where Williams is like battling through injuries and just like can't stay on the field. So I think that's really like the only way. But if everyone's healthy, then Palmer is the wide receiver 3. But that depends so much on if Mike Williams is back next year, right? So
yeah,
I'm really confident in him taking that wide receiver 2 spot if they do not bring back Mike Williams next year.
I haven't Googled it. Is he from Canada?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
He's from I think he's from Ontario.
Wow. All right. So the hockey thing makes sense. I was trying to be like, wait, is he American? Because like, there's no way he would have played hockey.
You don't know about the Tennessee hockey teams?
Yeah, I'm like, yeah.
So,
in Canada.
Yeah, he grew up in Canada, and then he went down to St. Thomas Aquinas. I think in 8th grade. I think is what Trey Wallace told me. But yeah, so going from Canada to St. Thomas Aquinas, that had to be quite a jump. All right, next question from Ross Ackerman. You guys discussed Rumph and Tillery being bad versus the run in the last video. How is Kyler Fackrell in that department? So we were actually just talking about this in terms of, like what PFF would tell us. And unfortunately, we don't have access to his run grades at the moment. We changed our PFF profile over to college premium and forgot to change it back. But Alex, what are your general thoughts of Kyler Fackrell against the run?
So, I mean, I watched a lot of him against the Giants, or when he was on the Giants specifically, and like he's not a great run guy. I think Staley said he was excellent against the run. I would not go that far. I think he's fine against the run. Yeah. I think they'll try to, use him maybe on later passing downs. But yeah, in Green Bay, I think he was a little bit off on it, and then the Giants didn't tend to use him on the run too much. So yeah, it'll be up to the coaching staff to see, what they like better. Do they like him? Do they like Rumph? Obviously, and Nwosu's probably still the starter, assuming they don't sign anybody. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I would not be too confident against Fackrell on the run. I think he's okay. I don't know if he's going to beat, some of the like higher quality blocking tight ends in the league, but for what he is, I think he's fine as a depth signing, and hopefully he doesn't have to play against the run too much. But I would not. I love Staley, but would not co-sign his take that's he's excellent against the run.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we'll get Fackrell and Rumph versus Josh Jacobs at some point this year.
Won't have to go against Devontae Booker though.
There we go.
Really
the true lead back for the Raiders is gone.
Yes.
So Jason A pointed out that Palmer actually played basketball growing with RJ Barrett. That's super cool. Seems like there's a lot more professional talent, basketball, NFL coming out of Canada, but I swear they're like all from the same area. Like all these guys grew up playing together. So I don't know if there's somebody from Vancouver, the NFL or NBA, somebody please let me know. But yeah, Kyler Fackrell, I think a lot of people were I don't want to say excited, but to me, he's like the Isaac Rochelle of this team. Somebody who's going to be special teams, solid in the locker room, can contribute in a pinch if necessary. But we all know that if Uchenna Nwosu or Joey Bosa are missing extended time, like this defense is in trouble, like especially Bosa because he's such an elite talent. So Kyler Fackrell's fine. But yeah, I'm not going to sit here and stamp like he's excellent against the run. I think he's just like Rochelle. I think he's fine. Yeah. I think he's a serviceable player. And if they get more out of him than that's great.
He's a football playing Jesse, just don't put him against a good blocking tight end or like a tackle. I don't know.
So to play him?
You don't play him, yeah.
not against the run. Passing downs, he's got a nice set of moves.
Yeah.
But against the run, I don't know.
That's the funny thing about Chris Rumph too, is everyone's like, well, just don't play him against the run.
Right.
Like the first 2/3 of every series. Like you don't need to play him against the run. That's completely fine. It's like, no, you kind of need to be good at that too. I think Fackrell, he's he's good at reading and reacting to certain things and chasing down plays on the backside. But otherwise, like he's okay at setting the edge. He at least has more size than Rumph. I think he's got like 10 pounds and an inch of height on him. So he's a little bit better there. And I think, I don't know, Rumph gets kind of pushed around a little bit more where there's like, okay, I think Fackrell doesn't do much better against the run, but I think he like holds like a net zero.
He sets the edge better, yeah.
Sure, yeah. Whereas I think Rumph like legitimately get blocked off the screen more continually. So I think he is the best they got. But I think like of the three guys mentioned in this question, I think Tillery has a chance to take that next step in this offseason that he's never had. So hopefully, that's your future better run defender. But as far as it goes right now, it's a little rough in that department.
Yeah, so that kind of leads us into the next question from Colin Murphy. He asked, do you think with Staley that Justin Jones can take a big step forward if he stays healthy? So we kind of talked a lot about him last year because obviously he was hurt. And run defense really struggled when Justin Jones was out there. It really was different. When you can have Jones and Linval Joseph out there together, the run defense is obviously much better. And so Justin Jones, according to his Instagram story, is about 290 now. He's lost some weight. So is Linval Joseph, according to his Instagram story. So it looks like this staff is maybe encouraging their guys to be a little lighter, be a little more agile. And I absolutely think that Justin Jones can take a leap forward with Brandon Staley. I know it was only one season, but if he can get a guy like Morgan Fox to 6 sacks, then why can't he get a guy like Justin Jones to 3 or 4, which would be a big leap forward for him? And so I think he's behind Linval Joseph as the best run defensive lineman. Last year, we heard from the coaching staff that he had taken a step forward in terms of his hand placement and his pass rush ability. We didn't get to see that very much, unfortunately, due to the injury issues. But I absolutely think that Justin Jones could take at least a mini leap forward and become, kind of their version of Morgan Fox, what the Rams had him last year.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Jones is like pretty solid as he already is. Like Steven said, when Justin Jones was hurt, and this defense felt it because then they had to move people around and try to figure out solutions. But I don't think there's really any answer for your like second best interior player going down, particularly when it comes to run defense. So the question is going to be, what exactly do they want Tillery to be? Because I assume they want him to be more of a pass rusher, but he will also still have to play the run on the interior. But I hope for leaps for some guys, but to me, like if Linval Joseph or Justin Jones goes down, it's the same thing we talk about on the edge where, if Bosa and Wosu go down, this team's kind of screwed. And if Jones or Joseph goes down, this team's also kind of screwed interior wise. Yeah.
For Jones, at least when I throw on the tape of him against the Raiders, I just watched another game just because it seems like it was one of two things. Either he just wasn't big and strong enough to win his reps, or he wasn't light enough to do what he does best, in my opinion, which was just be really explosive, kind of a gap shooter along the defensive line. So if he has dropped 10 pounds, I kind of like him going, at least towards in that direction. So I don't really know how the new defense will suit him, but the good news is, Bradley's like, I don't know, here you go figure it out. Whereas, Staley will, find ways to rush him. And I didn't realize that Justin Jones has 81-inch wingspan, which is only 2 inches shorter than Gregory Rousseau. So I did not know that he had such a wingspan. So, the way Staley can possibly use him, make him a little bit faster. I think he definitely has a chance to take a step forward. Sure.
Well, I was just listening to his interview and Pardon My Take, which it was a very good interview. But one of the things that stood out to me that he was talking about, they were asking him about how, they use players like Mack and Aaron Donald. And, we're used to, Gus Bradley just saying, okay, go do your business, like go do your own thing. Or at least that's how it seemed. But, it was really refreshing to hear him say, like, no, we spend more time working with guys like Aaron Donald because we want to make sure that they get these one-on-one matchups and that they're able to, perform and put up numbers like premium players are expected to. And obviously, it worked out for them last year with the Defensive Player of the Year season for Donald and #1 defense in the league. So it feels like, we've talked about this. It feels like the preparation standpoint for everybody on the Chargers is going to be increased. And I think that that absolutely is going to benefit, everyone involved on the defensive line, because if Joey Bosa is getting one-on-ones, he's going to have more numbers, and same with Jerry Tillery and same with everybody else. So I'm really excited about the defensive line. I am concerned about the depth. The defensive depth in general kind of concerns me, specifically at the safety position. But we'll have to talk about that on another day. So, Salvicious is the next question. He says, "I'm still a Josh Kelley believer. What chances are you guys giving him to win the RB2 spot over Justin Jackson?" Alex, you want to take that one first?
Not very high. I mean, I still think Justin Jackson is the RB2 on this team. To me, the third roster spot in that department is between him and Roundtree. And Roundtree, seemingly can contribute a special teams role. So it's like, at what point do we start talking about potentially cutting Josh Kelley? I mean, I don't, I don't want it to come to that. But to me, Justin Jackson, despite his injuries, is a better running back, and Austin Eckler is clearly at the top. I don't know. And people talked about maybe Justin Jackson is the cut because he has a 0 cap hit. It's like, well, Joshua Kelley has a $500,000 cap hit and they have $20 million of cap space. So to me, I guess it could be a situation where they carry all 4 of them and, they just put Roundtree in special teams, I guess. And then maybe next year they have Jackson. Well, Jackson's in the last year of his deal. So then, maybe they put Roundtree in the running back kind of rotation then. But it's just to me, it's either Roundtree or Kelley. You keep one or the other. And that's just what I want to see.
Well, they're so redundant as players.
Right.
As far as the RB2 job goes, there's 0 chance that he's winning the RB2 job unless, everybody gets hurt. He's, like you said, he's fighting for RB3. And I think he has a legitimately good chance of losing that too by having 0 role on special teams. I like Joshua Kelley for what he can do, but it seems like they're just yep, we tried that. We're going to get a guy who's pretty similar and just start over and get Joshua Kelley 2.0, which doesn't sound good. But for what he was brought in to do, I think that they can just get Roundtree to do the same thing and contribute on special teams and be a good pass protector. Kelley's on his way out because I don't see why you would want 2 redundant guys on your roster. Not that Kalen Ballage and Troy Wayne Pope are all that great, but Kelley couldn't beat those guys out. He was RB5 at one point. It was 2 guys that they signed off the street. So I really think it's time to start talking about him being cut, which is crazy because he was the guy who's going to take out Justin Jackson for his spot. And it looked like that at some point. And in training camp, all we heard about how amazing Joshua Kelley was, the best player in training camp. And now he's going to lose out to the second, 6th round pick of this draft.
Well, you had the Bengals game too. That was Joshua Kelley's coming out party. The Chiefs didn't put up the best numbers statistically in averages, but he contributed a huge role that game, and then from there it was just all downhill. But the other thing that I've said with the wide receivers, running backs, I don't feel like any position is safe with this coaching staff in terms of which guys get cut. I know a lot of people obviously love Tyron Johnson and Jalen Guyton, and I wouldn't predict either guy to get cut. You're probably more likely looking at a Hill or a Reed in that area if talking about which wide receivers they'll keep. But I don't know. To me, with a new coaching staff that isn't indebted at all to any of these guys, particularly the non-star players and depth players, I just think there could be more change than people expect.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone outside of Herbert and Murray from last year's class their job is in jeopardy because they drafted players to directly compete with them. Josh Palmer doesn't do the same kind of things as Joe Reed, but he's another receiver body in the room. And so, and same with Roundtree. And you can even look at a guy like Eli Stove, who we got a breakdown coming on from our friend Jason. His skill set is identical to Joe Reed's. And so all these players, they have, competition set up for them. And we just frankly didn't see them enough. I think it's one thing for Brandon Staley to feel comfortable about Nasir Adderley, right? Because we had a whole season of tape from him. We had 10 plays of Joe Reed and, 1 game of KJ Hill and 3 games of Joshua Kelley at the beginning of the season. And so all of those 3 players are in jeopardy, in my opinion. As for the chances of him taking RB2 from Jackson, I wouldn't rule it out. If Kelley's able to find his confidence again, it's possible, sure. But I'm not going to predict that to happen. I think Justin Jackson has proven himself to be a much more efficient running back. And the problem with Jackson is just that he's never been able to stay healthy. The problem has never been his on-field ability because he's been the only running back the Chargers have had over the last few years that can kind of mimic what Austin Eckler can in terms of efficiency. So I wouldn't rule it out completely, but I definitely do not think it's likely.
Were you surprised to see them not even pick up? I mean, I don't know how they're undrafted. Did they do an undrafted free agent running back? Did they have one? They have to, right?
I don't remember one.
No, because they drafted Roundtree and they still have what's his name? The F-150 guy from
Bradwell.
Bradwell, thank you. Yeah, Bradwell's still on the roster. So
yeah. So were you kind of surprised to see them not take a more explosive running back in the draft or even like an undrafted free agent at all?
Kind of. It's tough to say because, you know, the Saints at least have always had like, you know, the explosive receiver who's kind of more like the slasher guy. And then they've, you know, had a staple of big, powerful guys, Latavius Murray, Mark Ingram kind of player. So I'm not like super surprised by it, but I do wish that they would have a little more variety because, like you said, Kelley and Roundtree are the same player. And then Bradwell, like, we don't know who he is, right? But yeah. So I definitely am wishing that they had a little more variety there. I still kind of like Troymaine Pope. I wish he would come back, but
yeah.
All right, so we're gonna get to our last question here, and then we'll open it up to the chat. So if you want to ask some of your questions, I know some of you guys have asked questions, excuse me, already. But again, our super chat feature is enabled, so make sure and take advantage of that. Anthony Hopper for our last Patreon question: if the Chargers decided to bring on one more quality free agent signing, who would you want it to be and why? And then he says, thanks again. Anthony, if you're listening to this, we still need your information for the Manscaped shirt, by the way, from the draft. But in terms of free agents, there's not a whole lot. You know, I kind of mentioned it, but the defensive line depth kind of concerns me. The safety depth kind of concerns me. So if the Chargers wanted to bring in that safety from the Dolphins who was just released, Bobby McCain, I think that would be a good signing. Sheldon Richardson, someone mentioned in the chat. He's still available. I would be okay with that. So to me, like if they do bring in any free agent, it probably should be a defensive tackle or a safety.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I'm gonna go with this is really boring. I'm gonna go with Jalen Watkins, I guess. Like I'm trying to find somewhere they can fit some sort of free safety. Like you told me, like, hey, if Derwin James goes, or excuse me, if Nasir Adderley goes down, they have to put Derwin James at free safety. Then I'm like, okay, well, what if they put? Nope. They don't have another free safety option after that. So it's like, oh God, like this is going to be a disaster. Like, look, if James goes down, they kind of have some options at strong safety. But if Adderley goes down, putting Derwin James at free safety is such a giant waste of talent. So if it's Jalen Watkins, who's just like a guy, some special teams, that's fine. I will look you all dead in the eye and say Jaleel Adai potentially as well. It's kind of a punchline, but it also happened last season. And honestly, he had some good games. He was great in the first Denver game. He picked off Matt Ryan in the Falcons game. I'm not saying he's a starter. You know, I'm not considering bringing in a starter. If they were starters, they'd probably be signed by now. So Watkins or Adai, as much as like that's not a great option, it is an option because they do need a body, and there's no reason you should have Adderley go down and put James at free safety. That's a giant waste of talent.
Malik Hooker's still available, right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, like that's the guy for me. Like any safeties or edges, like I honestly think you can make an argument that edges still need. I mean, I know they just drafted Rumpf, but like, man, like I don't know. I wouldn't hate bringing in Melvin Ingram back as like a depth option just because like I don't know. We just talked about like talking ourselves into Kyler Fackrell against the run. Like if right. Bosa or Nwosu goes down, like. I don't know. Like I just don't feel great about that. But yeah, I would agree. Safety, edge, really just defensive reinforcements as a whole. Like to me, if you get one or two more of those guys for depth, that's really what they need to do.
Yeah, there's some defensive ends or edge players out there that I would be okay with outside of Ingram too. Olivier Vernon's still a free agent. You've talked about KJ Wright a few times. He's still available.
I like KJ Wright a lot.
Alex Okafor was okay for the Chiefs. Adrian Claiborne, he's more of like an inside defensive end. Yeah, there's not a lot. I mean, obviously, this is kind of the later stages. They could bring back Kyle Emmanuel too if they wanted to.
I will say it's crazy.
He's kind of productive.
I will say it's kind of crazy to just look through the list and see like how many big names are available that just like declined in value to one reason or another. Like Le'Veon Bell was like the 15th ranked free agent. Like, and if you told someone that 3 years ago, it's like, wow. But no, it's not a very deep free agent group. And frankly, like I would like them to bring in 1 or 2 more guys, but I also wouldn't mind them just staying away.
Yeah. So we'll have to see who said that. Ryan did, he did point out, Staley did allude to bringing in some free agents in one of his post-draft pressers. He did specifically mention, defensive line and safety. So we'll see, like Tyler was saying, in terms of the safety position, Adderley and Jane and Derwin are the only players who have like legitimate range and athleticism to cover deep. And so, if right now as it stands, they don't have an option. If Adderley's down, they have to put Derwin a free safety, because putting Alohi Gilman or Mark Webb back there, both guys who ran like 4.8s and just don't have that kind of athleticism and range, that would be a disaster. I mean, like, I guess you could put Chris Harris back there. Like, I don't know, man, but I feel like they've got to bring in someone. And, someone pointed out that Hooker wants a starting job. I don't think Hooker has a choice at this point.
Right. Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Like, none of these guys have a choice.
Yeah.
You're in like the 10th wave of free agency. Like, what are we debating? But yeah, no, I definitely wouldn't mind some depth, but to me, it's just like, I really just don't like any of these free agents. And I was saying it when people were like, well, what if you don't take a tackle in the first round and, you sign Alejandro Villanueva? It's like, fine, I'll just go kill myself. Like, this is just, it sucks. Like,
no, like Alejandro Villanueva, great dude. I would rather have just brought Santevi back if that was my choice. Like, I know people hate Santevi, but he was better than Villanueva was last year. Mm-hmm. And Eric Fisher tore his Achilles in December, which is why he still hasn't signed. So, all right, guys, we'll answer some of your questions now. If you do have one, type it in the chat. Like I said, if you want to use the super chat feature, it is enabled. So let's get to some of these. Eric White, do you guys know anything about the cornerback that they claimed from the Cowboys? I know he was an undrafted free agent signed with the Chargers initially, and he was from North Texas. I have no idea what he is as a player. I haven't gone back and watched any of that film, but no, I was like, who's this guy?
Probably not a great defensive player if Dallas is the one waving a corner.
Right. Yeah. I didn't know. First of all, I totally forgot he was on the team because they signed him and they're like, wow, they did these edits really quickly. I didn't realize that he already had the jerseys on from when he was with the Chargers. So I'm like, oops. Yeah. I didn't realize he was on the team at some point. So, I don't know anything about him except his last name.
Yeah, Jeff Noobskin asks, how do you think the depth chart shakes out at wide receiver? Who will be wide receiver 3, 4, and 5? That's an interesting question. I happen to think that Palmer will be wide receiver 4.
Yeah.
At least to start out. And so I think, in terms of Tyron Johnson and Jalen Guyton, one of them will be 3 and the other one will be 5. Mm-hmm. I hope it's Tyron Johnson. I just think he's a much cleaner, safer player. Doesn't have the drop issues. He can do a little bit more things than just run straight. So I hope it's Tyron Johnson 3, Palmer 4, and Jalen Guyton 5. But I think Guyton's probably wide receiver 3 at this point.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I don't know. I would hope that Johnson is wide receiver 3, frankly. Like, I mean, I guess Guyton is the deep ball guy, but like, I don't know. Like, his hands aren't great. If I were to order it myself, I would probably go 1 Allen, 2 Williams, 3 Johnson, 4 Palmer, 5 Guyton, 6
Reed.
I guess Reed, Hill, one of those guys probably makes it. And then I don't know. Then you're getting in like practice squad territory. I think Moore is still on the roster, isn't he?
Jason Moore. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess maybe him, but like, yeah, it's just a competition to get that wide receiver 6, 5 role.
Yeah, they kept Moore on the roster last season as their 6th receiver. I mean, I don't know where they ranked him. I'm assuming it was like wide receiver 6. So yeah, they'll keep 6 guys, and it'll be Reed and Hill's going to be on the practice squad.
Nick S just typed, I think KJ Hill's gone. Staley has forgotten to mention him on 3 separate occasions. I don't think he's forgotten. I think that's a deliberate choice to leave him off. Tyler kind of pointed that out on Twitter. But a couple guys asking about what jerseys from this rookie class we would buy. I'm getting a Rashawn Slater jersey, man. Like as soon as the Vapor jersey's coming out, I'm getting one. Like it fits my personality, and I've secretly always wanted an offensive lineman jersey, but they've never had one that's good enough to merit a jersey purchase. So it's going to be Rashawn Slater for me. If I had to choose one from rounds 3 to 7.
Why would you choose one from rounds 3 to 7? Like, it's the first year of them. You haven't even seen them play. Like, there's Slater and Samuel Jr. hype. I'm not buying a Nick Neiman jersey when he's playing special teams. Like,
well, if you're including round 3, it would be Josh Palmer, because I know he's going to play. But if you're asking me of like which day 3 players of jersey I'm going to buy, let's say, like, I know there's a lot of people who love to buy jerseys, and if that's your thing, that's great. But jersey, that's they just raised the prices of the game jersey, and a Vapor jersey is $150. So if I'm buying a jersey, I need it to be someone that I know is like at least gonna play more than 10 snaps a game on the field, like besides special teams. So
man, listen, I don't even have a Justin Herbert jersey yet. I still have to get that. So before we talk about Josh Palmer, if I had to get one, it would probably be Samuel, just because that's like the easy guy who's probably going to be like cornerback for the next decade. But and also I'm never wearing an offensive lineman jersey. Never, just in general, never a number over 50.
Yeah, I can't imagine me wearing an offensive lineman jersey as like a 5'9" Chinese guy walking around like Slater, like hogs.
I will say like edges like Bosa, like obviously over 90.
Yeah,
but no, I'm not getting it. Like Linval Joseph jersey.
Ryan Carruthers.
Oh man, well my brother is an Eagles fan too. I think I've told you this, but a couple years ago he was like, oh, should I get a Carson Wentz jersey? And I was like, dude, you should get a Fletcher Cox jersey or a Jason Kelce
for sure,
or Jason Kelce, and he chose Kelce. I was like, okay, I dig it. Very similar build to me, so it makes a lot of sense. Steven needs Brendan Hymus. I love Brendan Hymus, and I think that he's going to be a sneaky player for them, but I'm not buying a jersey for him.
You know what? I might get that Murray 56. That might be the jersey that I buy just to be the hipster. I'll also get Hurts too in the same shopping cart.
That fits your personality a lot. Ryan said his dad is 5'6" and a Jets fan and would wear a Nick Mangold jersey. Nick Mangold was awesome, man. That's definitely a little weird that he's a little smaller, but Nick Mangold was awesome. Will Siete or Siate? You're gonna have to tell me how to pronounce that one. What do you guys think the chances are for a Herbert sophomore slump?
Not high. He still does have pretty good weapons around him. They boosted the offensive line. I guess if you really is Joe Lombardi going to be worse than Shane Steichen? No, I don't think so. So, I don't think there's a very high chance of regression. I guess, there is the concept that people will have more tape on him, but I don't really think there's much of one.
Okay. In the off chance he has a slump, and I don't think he will, I'm trying to look up the schedule the Chargers are supposed to have this year. I know that's not in order yet, but it feels like they're playing less crap this year than last year. The Raiders, I think their secondary did get better. I think the Broncos will be better on defense. They still have the Patriots, the Vikings, Washington football team, the Eagles. I don't know, Alex, how the Eagles secondary is, but I feel like there's if he were to regress, it's because he didn't go up against a bunch of crap to end the season, like the Falcons, the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Chiefs, who didn't start any starters. So, if he were to regress, please don't jump in the comments and tell me I'm saying he's going to. But if he were, it's because I think they're playing better talent on defense. And yes, teams do have tape on him.
I guess, but Herbert had Rookie of the Year locked up before he even like played the Falcons or one of those like garbage time season games. So yeah, I'm not too concerned. Yeah, I know they played the NFC East, which is like some of it is okay. But who's the AFC division they play? The
North? The AFC North. Yeah, they get the AFC North.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
The Browns. I mean, it's
the schedule in general is definitely more difficult this year than it was last year. It's kind of like, I know we're all super excited about this team, and I'm very excited about it as well. But with the amount of turnover and the schedule being, far more difficult, I think we need to kind of pump the brakes a little bit about expectations. And I know people kind of hate me saying this, but if I would be pretty surprised if Justin Herbert threw for more yards and touchdowns than he did last year. I think his numbers will decrease, but I think his efficiency is going to increase. And if that's the case, then I think that's a win. Like, I think efficiency is kind of the focus for him this year, in my opinion.
Right. Like, do not bet on Herbert MVP hunts based on the fact they're playing the AFC North and, some of the tough teams they'll have to play. But I don't think he'll have a bad season by any means either. No,
definitely not. He's going to have a very good season. The team's going to have a very good season. I just think, there's some people who are like talking about like making the playoffs and, the MVP thing. It's going to take a while. Like, to me, we've said this before, but to me, 2022 is like the big push. It's, they have this $20 million in cap space that they could potentially roll over to next year. To me, 2022 is the big push for this team. If they win 10 games this year, 11 games, obviously I will be very, very happy and make the playoffs. I just don't think that should be the expectation. Ryan Scandura, can we talk about how Staley basically dared teams to run when he was with the Rams? Seems like he doesn't value run defense as much. I don't know if I would say that, like flat out saying that he doesn't value run defense. I think, he's talked several times about being a balanced team, about being more than just a defensive minded coach. Like, that's been, one of his calling cards this offseason is being more than just a defensive mind. So, I mean, I think he knows that the passing game is kind of the biggest priority in stopping the passing game, but I don't think that means that he doesn't value run defense.
The Rams had the 4th fewest rushing yards per game allowed. It looks
there
like
you go.
Here. So, thanks, Google.
Nick S said, "Do you think they are purposely not bringing in additional help to see what they have in their depth to prepare themselves for 2022, especially with the cap rolling over to next year?"
I don't think they're purposely doing anything. There's just not great free agents left. Like, I mean, I know people want the transaction, and it's what Woj has brought upon our society by reporting free agent news. But like, we could talk ourselves into like some of the guys, and like, yeah, I wouldn't hate like a Sheldon Richardson or somebody, but it's like, I just don't think there's very good value left in free agency. Like,
no.
Yeah, I don't think they're sitting there like, let's see what what these guys can do. Let's see what Mark Webb can do. Like, I think they're gonna bring in somebody, right?
They also only need $5 million for the in-season transactions, like injuries and stuff, and they have $20 million left. And so the guys that you can sign at this point are worth, we just saw Casey Hayward sign for 1 year, $4 million. So like, I feel like that's kind of the market for a lot of these guys.
I know they can sign like 150 Joe Toonies for $750,000 in a year. So,
oh man, we have to bring up the Chiefs offensive line again.
Humphrey.
God, so fucking stupid. There's your effort for the day.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Ken said, if you look at past quarterback rankings, most are better in their second year. Luckily, Herbert is very intelligent and will have a good grasp of the offense once games start. We don't really know that. I assume that's going to be the case, but like I said, I think the schedule is significantly harder. The entire coaching staff is brand new. So like, I'm not expecting Justin Herbert to throw for like 3,000 yards and 20 touchdowns. Like, he'll have a slight decrease just because, there's harder opponents and, more turnover around him. but he's going to have a very good season. And I don't think, just to be clear, like none of us are predicting that he's going to have a terrible season. It's just the odds say that he's going to have fewer opportunities to throw the ball next year because his coaching staff is actually going to be competent and not have Anthony Lynn calling games.
I mean, I guess the 2 sophomore campaigns that get people maybe excited for this year are like obviously Mahomes in his second year was great. The Wentz sophomore season where the Eagles won the Super Bowl based on that. But I mean, I definitely think there's more of an argument for he'll take a step up than there is for he'll really have like a hard regression.
Yeah. I've seen a few people ask about Richard Sherman as a safety. No. Richard Sherman is a corner. Like, I know that, there's people like Charles Woodson who made that change, but Charles Woodson was an elite athlete. Like, to me, if you put Richard Sherman at safety, you're taking away what he does best, which is read and react in short, instances. He's not a safety to cover deep and cover a deep third and make plays on the ball. Like, to me, that's not who Richard Sherman is. Richard Sherman's a smart, physical corner who can make plays out there, not in a deep third. I think that would take away from his game.
If you were to bring in a corner, like my first choice also wouldn't even be like Richard Sherman. It would probably be like Steven Nelson. Like that's probably like the best guy on the market. Like Sherman's fine, and obviously a lot of people know him just based on like name brand, but I don't really think he adds much to this team.
With the projected 4 comp picks for next year, do you guys think they're going to try and use that to get any veteran players? That's from Jay Blue. Also, like the fact that the Chargers could get a 5th round comp pick for Tyrod Taylor just seems kind of unfair, I guess. Like that makes me feel a little. Anyways, just want to.
Is it a 5th round? I thought it was 3-6. I thought it was 3 6s and a 7th.
Lance Zierlein said that if he plays like 80% of the snaps for Houston, that it could become a 5th round pick.
Oh, but that's going to be a mess.
79. There's no way.
Yeah, that's going to be a mess though, because they have Tyrod and they have Davis Mills, and God knows what's happening with Deshaun Watson. So
but you know what? He might be able. I know he's never very healthy, but Deshaun Watson does have a really long line of masseuses that he can work with to try to maintain his body for the entire season.
Man, that whole thing is a mess. Kind of gonna.
I bet they're gonna chuck in Davis Mills at some point. Like that just feels like a very Texans thing. Feed him to the wolves and then be surprised when he takes 60 sacks and is dead.
Hey, what if Tyrod Taylor beats the Chargers this year?
Oh, do they play them?
They play the Texans?
Uh-huh.
Oh man.
Oh, because wait, why did they play the Texans? Because they were
the last place teams.
No, the Chargers
last teams.
Were the Texans last or the Jags were last? Okay, yeah. So that makes makes sense. Okay. Yeah. They're not gonna. The Texans are going like 1-15. I have no faith in that.
Hasn't stopped the Chargers from losing before, man.
It hasn't, and maybe they'll be the one like that the Browns year, the Browns year where they were the one. But I just have no faith. Like they don't really have anybody on defense either. Like I don't know.
The Texans are terrible. They have nobody. Like,
it's
Outside of Laramie Tunsil, like, do they have any good players?
Yeah, no. Like I think their ceiling is like 4-12. Like their floor is 0-16. Oh, we keep talking about 16. I'm still getting used to that.
So Nick S gave us a super chat. Win-loss predictions. Thank you all, especially you, Alex. So there you go. A little shout out for you, Alex.
Someone likes me.
We all like you, Alex. You want to take that one first, though?
Yeah. So they play the East, their division. They played the North, right? And then then the Vikings are in there. I'll just Google Chargers opponents before I make a prediction. My general thinking on this has been I would say 9-7 now. It'll be 10-7, I guess, or 9-8. But yeah, so I sort of think that they'll do better in the division compared to what obviously, has been. Maybe a split with the Broncos, split the Raiders. I hope they beat the Chiefs one time, but probably 0-2. And then the NFC East, I feel like they'll win 3 out of 4 just because I don't buy any of those teams maybe yet. The Washington matchup probably concerns me.
Yeah, Washington's good.
Yeah, just looking at the logos, I would probably say 9-8, 10-7. That's kind of my expectation.
Yeah, it's about where I'm at. I mean, I'd like to give them more wins, but like Cleveland's actually kind of good. And, are they a better team than the Patriots? Probably. I'll believe they'll beat the Patriots when I see it. Same thing with the Steelers. Like, yeah, I know they beat them that one year, but it got ugly some years. I don't know. They don't have, Rivers anymore. So I guess that's kind of different. Vikings, I have no idea what they're going to be this year. Washington football team's a good team. They'll always seem to split with Denver. I think if they're going to sweep anyone in the division, it's obviously the Raiders, but it's a pretty tough schedule this year. Like good games, but a tough schedule.
I guess, yeah, it's really tough to say because like that 12-4 team in 2018 was really like a 9-7 team. And then they had a couple things go their way. Like the Titans tip at the end, that was Jaleel Adai, and obviously the walk off against the Chiefs. Not saying they got lucky, like they did deserve to be 12-4, but like so they were so good in 1-score games that year that it's just like, and then you saw the next season where they just fell apart kind of in 1-score games. So yeah, I mean, like I would basically say 9-7 or 9-8 plus or minus.
God,
3.
I hate
that. Yeah, I would say 9-8 plus or minus 3 based on like the outcomes of 1-score games. So like I think their ceiling is like 12-5, and their floor is probably like a 6-11. God,
so
these numbers so fucking suck. Like I hate these numbers.
It was always so nice, like just being able to look at like a 9-7. You're like, okay, 16, like. You know how many games are left in this season based off of their record, and now I'm just gonna be like, wait, 17, wait, 16.
I'm just, from now on, I'm just gonna say 12-win team, 9-win team, 6-win team. Like I'm not doing this, and like 6-11, 5-12. The numbers are just so ugly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's 8-9, 9-8 is probably where I land. Like I said, I just think the schedule is so much more difficult this year. Abraham Perez asks, does the Palmer pick take us out of potential Julio Jones or Odell Beckham trades? Tom Telesco does that. That has nothing to do with Josh Palmer. That has everything to do with Tom Telesco. That's not who he is. That's never going to be who he is.
Yeah, I don't think there's much chance they're in like Julio contention. That feels like I don't know, like I could see a team like Buffalo making that move, or like some team that just really wants another receiver, maybe the Washington football team or somebody like that. But I just don't see Julio being I don't see that being a thing. Just Tom Telesco doesn't make those moves, right, like Steven said.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so those moves probably don't happen until they start winning games, right? When they actually want to make that push. So what record do they need to have this year, or how far do they need to go to show that let's make that push in 2022?
They've got to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
sure.
I think it's probably got to be an 11-win season and make the playoffs for them to be like really aggressive in the future. Mm-hmm. Nick S., I did see your super chat again. Thank you for the second one. Nick wants us to do a video breakdown on what this defense needs to be able to slow down and beat Patrick Mahomes. So we'll definitely do that. I've got summer break coming up. I'm going to watch a shit ton of film and do all kinds of breakdowns for you guys. So
just hire Gus Bradley.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing. The Chargers have been like,
it's not wrong.
Yeah, the Chargers have been pretty good against Mahomes. I mean, there was the Mexico game where they held him pretty clearly in check. So yeah, I've always their problem against the Chiefs has never been Mahomes. I would say I think their problem against the Chiefs. Well, they've actually played very close games, so I wouldn't say they even necessarily have a problem. It's just been like, they were up what was it like? It was some weird score the first game of the year, right? Where it was like 21-9 or something like that, or 17-9.
I know it was like
Something
17-3.
Gordon had a break.
I think it was like 17-9, and then Mahomes just gets that like insane pass where Tyreek Hill, and then he falls down and walks into the end zone. So like, there's just not a lot you can do about that. Because like Chris Harris was like running like stride for stride with him on that play, and it just gets beat.
Yeah.
So yeah, like honestly, it's just kind of luck at a certain point. I think they have the defensive pieces to be able to keep him in check. I mean, the most important thing is really that they stay healthy. Like, because that first game against the Chiefs was it was a really great game. Like, Jerry Tillery has like 5 quarterback hits in that game, right? Joey Bosa's making plays. Like, that was really the standout game for the defense. And then, like they didn't really have a second game against the Chiefs because by then it was like Chad Henne or whatever they threw out there. So I think the most important thing is just staying healthy. And, as long as you get pressure on Mahomes, I think that's good enough.
Yeah, to me, the key to beating the Chiefs has been less about the defense and more about the offense because,
right.
You talk about the Mexico City game and what was the problem? Turnovers.
Yeah,
you talk about this game this year. What was the problem? Well, you didn't have a coach that had the balls to go for it on 4th down. Like, so to me, the problem has not been the defense. The problem is the offense because, you look at all these teams that have given Mahomes trouble. The biggest thing that they all have in common is a pass rush.
Right.
And the Chargers have the ability to get after him with Bosa and Nwosu and Tillery and all these guys and Derwin James if he's healthy. So the defense isn't the problem for beating the Chiefs. It's the offense, which has been, so up and down against the Chiefs over the last few years that, the defense is hung out to dry. And that's the other thing. You can't give Mahomes other chances. You can't give him short fields. You can't give him turnovers. And that's been a big problem for the Chargers over the last few years.
So the game against the Chiefs this year was Herbert's first game, obviously.
Yeah.
And that was that the one where he threw the interception when they were up 17-9? Yeah. So like, I think he made some rookie mistakes, obviously, in that game. Right. That was obviously just kind of probably a kind of nightmare scenario for him. While it was also, a dream. It was just like, hey, you have to go out and play Patrick Mahomes and, get thrown into this situation with Tyrod. But I don't know. I mean, I definitely think Herbert will be more even keeled when he plays the Chiefs next year.
Craig Smith pointed out, apparently Staley said that the offense wants to threaten teams horizontally. I don't remember him saying that. So Craig, if you could let me know when he said that, if that was in his opening press conference. I think that's an okay statement as long as it comes with and vertically, as long as it's not just horizontally, but wide zone rushing attack tends to threaten teams horizontally. You can get some jet sweep action, which is kind of a staple of the Shanahan offense, whether that comes with Austin Eckler or Joe Reed or Tyron Johnson, Keenan Allen, and even Mike Williams has been able to make an impact that way. So threatening the defenses horizontally is okay as long as it comes with the caveat of and vertically.
Yeah, I mean, that's completely laterally. Someone said he said laterally, which, like, whatever, same difference. Is as long as they don't do what they did to Kalen Ballage, who wasn't really a great running back, but all they had him do was run up the middle over and over. I've been really tempted sometime this summer to just make a compilation of Kalen Ballage plays, which I'm pretty sure just look like this, like for the entire time the plays are going. So, if they want to stretch him horizontally and use, Rashawn Slater's amazing athleticism, go for it.
Yeah, I would say the second half of the Miami game is the worst Chargers film in the last 10 years. I would go that far. Well,
besides the Patriots game.
I would say it was worse than the Patriots game because, like, the Patriots game, it's like, okay, they're done by halftime. Like, this game's over. They had so many chances to, like, beat the Dolphins, and, like, they just kept insisting on, like, let's run with Kalen Ballage and, like, do all that stuff. So yeah, that was just like grueling to watch when it's just like, you guys could be winning this game, but
Kevin Koenig asked a really good question. He wants to talk about a possible hidden gem that we have forgotten about, and that's outside linebacker Emeka Egbule. He says, this guy now has a position. I've seen this guy get pressure before. Staley secret weapon? Discuss. I like Egbule. I think, we haven't seen enough of him to like flat out call him a secret weapon, like somebody that could make a true impact. But he played really well against the Saints in like the one game that he played in. Yeah. He's got the physical traits that Staley seems to like. So, if there is kind of a hidden gem that maybe makes an impact that we kind of are not predicting, I could definitely see it being Egbule, just based on, kind of the lack of edge depth, because I think Egbule is more pro ready right now than Chris Rumph is, just based off of physical
that's
profile.
That's going to go over well.
So, I mean, I don't think Egbule is going to be ahead of him on the depth chart, but, like if I have to play Egbule, who's been in the league for 2 years, or Rumph, on a consistent basis, I probably would choose Egbule.
A hidden gem, like if he's hidden, sure, it's because he's buried under the fact that he only has 2 solo tackles and like 3 pressures last season. So if he's a hidden gem, that's great. Like he was brought in to be a depth guy, special teams guy. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely something there. He's obviously still on the roster, which is, hey, that's pretty good. But like a hidden gem, I suppose, but I got to see more from him.
Yeah. I just think he's gonna be a special teams player if he makes the team. Like that's kind of the position he's in.
Yeah. We'll have to think about that a little bit more outside of Egbule, who we could pick. But let's see. Oh, we had a question from Arjun. Where'd it go? Oh, he just said, "What's up, guys? Happy Friday." Happy Friday, Arjun. Make sure you guys go and check out Arjun's latest video episode. He did a fantastic job this weekend, kind of breaking down the analytical side of the Chargers draft and, potentially talking about, did they reach for players? Did they not? So definitely go check that out on our channel. Ross Ackerman, I'm here for Easton Stick sub packages. No, I'm good. I don't want Justin Herbert coming off the field. I think that's kind of a poor decision.
I've written about Easton Stick, and I'm not going to get in more trouble.
Oh. Jay Blue gave us another super chat. Thank you, Jay. He said, thanks for the grind. You guys have been busting out quality and quantity. Do you guys think the lack of a Ramsey type lockdown, in parentheses, lockdown on player man-to-man while the rest of the D gives you no help, will impact this defense negatively? I think they do have a Jalen Ramsey type in terms of locking down someone. It's just not someone that's an outside corner. I think Derwin James is that player, and I think you can use him in a similar fashion where you're locking down tight ends and running backs and slot receivers, and then you can kind of build it, the defense from the inside out. So if there is, a lockdown player, I think that's him. In terms of a cornerback, I think Michael Davis will be used that way as the man-to-man corner, while Chris Harris and Asante Samuel would kind of serve as interchangeable pieces, inside, outside, playing zone, playing man. So I think Davis will serve as the Jalen Ramsey type of one-on-one man-to-man cover guy. But to me, if you're talking about a true lockdown someone player, then it's Derwin James.
Yeah, this is kind of the same conversation people had with like Aaron Donald. It's like, oh, is Brandon Staley's defense going to be good without Aaron Donald? It's like, yeah, he has Joey Bosa. And yes, he was second in pass rush win rate to Aaron Donald. It was Joey Bosa by 0.2%. Like you build your defense, and Brandon Staley has talked about this. Like you build your defense to the talent you have and the guys you have, and so. I think it's kind of the same concept like Steven mentioned with Derwin James, right? You also have Asante Samuel Jr., who is, going to continue to improve. I think also Davis improved a lot last year. Someone mentioned him, locking down Stephon Diggs, which is still one of the top 10 most shocking things I've ever watched on the Chargers football field, with no Casey Hayward, him just locking up Stephon Diggs the whole game. But I think it's just you play to your talent, and I think they're kind of going to use Joey Bosa as the Aaron Donald, and like Steven said, Derwin James as kind of the the Jalen Ramsey type player. Yeah,
you know what? I think will Michael Davis ever be Jalen Ramsey? No. And Michael Davis was an undrafted free agent. Jalen Ramsey came as a top 10, corner prospect, top 10 pick, easily the top corner prospect in that draft. So will he ever be there? No. You need to invest in a player like Ramsey to have someone like Ramsey. If you want Ramsey, try to get Okudah, or like you said, Derwin James is a top pick. and that's why he's such, a lockdown guy. But Davis has taken such a step forward. That's something that we saw him kind of getting better, I suppose. But if I'm not mistaken, they played the Vikings the year before, and they had Stephon Diggs, and he really struggled that game. So then he went the next year and played him when he was on the Bills, and he looked a lot better. So if he can continue that progress, someone talked about, is he going to continue to progress, or is he at his ceiling? Like, I don't think he's at his ceiling, and I think he has the talent to do it, and the coach believes in him, and Staley says this guy's just getting started. So I do think he's, will he ever be Ramsey? I don't think so, because he just doesn't really have all of that, but I think he can be close.
Yeah. No one's Ramsey, right? Like, he's the best quarterback in the league for a reason, because he combines all the, every attribute you could possibly want in a cornerback. Ramsey has them all. So we'll have to see how the new defense suits him over in Los Angeles with the other team. But Michael Davis can be a high level corner. And like you said, I don't think he's hit his ceiling yet either. So we've seen him make progress each and every year. And I have no reason to doubt that that will continue. Max Roke, similar question. What is Joey Bosa's ceiling with Staley? Does he become the double-digit every year sack guy? I think yes. I think his ceiling is defensive player of the year kind of player, because the issue with Joey Bosa, I mean, it's been health somewhat, but it's also just been the lack of creativity from Gus Bradley moving him around. It was always Melvin Ingram goes to get, one-on-one coverages and go against the guards, and we've never seen Joey Bosa do that. So one of the things that I'm most excited about this season is how Brandon Staley seeks out one-on-one opportunities for Bosa, because I think the statistic from last year was that he got double teamed on 23% of his pass rush snaps or something like that, which was second or third in the league. So I expect that number to come down to 12 or 15, and that's going to get Bosa 2 or 3 more sacks, 10 or 15 more pressures, and I think he absolutely has a defensive player of the year ceiling.
So, yeah, Craig mentioned in the chat the first game that Davis had against Waller, and that's just another thing in his book, and why he hasn't hit his ceiling. Dude can continue to improve, and like we kind of been saying, 6-foot corners that run 4.3 and are physical, they don't grow on trees.
All right, we'll get to a couple more questions, then we'll wrap it up. Thomas Martinez, what do you think Staley means when he describes them as a professional DB room? To me, we kind of joked about this, or Alex kind of did, about the Eagles comment, because they wanted to consider themselves a quarterback factory. Right. But to me, when you're talking about a professional DB room, I think that mostly points to a development standpoint. They think that they can take anyone who has X amount of traits and develop them to the point where they can be a high-level starter. I think of Jordan Fuller for them last year with the Rams as the shining example of that. 6th, 7th round pick, turned him into a high-level starter, and now he's a staple for the Rams defense. So I think Jordan Fuller is the example of what they mean when a professional DB room is. We can take a Mark Webb in the 7th round because we have full confidence in our ability to develop him. And, we see something we like, and we think he can be a high-level starter for them. So I think the professional DB room points to their faith in their own ability to develop players at a high level.
Or it just means don't tweet about not having enough playing time. So
I feel like Staley's gotten to a point where he just kind of has these phrases that he's getting through the off season with. At a very John Gruden, I'll tell you what, man, that dude is a Gruden grinder. And I feel like that's the point where Staley's
at. Talk like a Mexican living in Texas, man.
I'll tell you what, man. I'll tell you what.
That's an Italian Mexican accent combination right there.
He does sound like that. It's I'll tell you what, man, Gruden grinder. It's a good impression. That's what he sounds like.
Isn't Gruden from the Midwest?
Yeah. I don't know where he's from, but it's a good impression.
It's all right. So I think that's a good place to end it. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We did do a great interview recently with Brendan Sonone from the Florida State 247 coverage, talking about Asante Samuel Jr. and Trey McKitty. We've got some great interviews on tap from the other universities of the Chargers players that they drafted. The Trey Wallace one from Tennessee, that will be coming out on Monday. And we also have, Chris Harry is coming on, and we'll be interviewing him later today. We did just get one more super chat. So Y Newman, thank you, man. Asking if they should sign someone like Sherman or Ingram. Probably not. I think that those ships have sailed. We really thank you for the super chat, though. So thank you guys so much. Alex, Tyler, any other thoughts before we head out today?
Does Alex want to go?
No, I mean, no more thoughts. But thank you guys for all the super chats. You guys were super generous today.
Yeah.
But yeah, just we'll be doing these every week, and hopefully they get fun through the off season. And maybe I can, as we get less and less news, I will break out more and more in my impressions. Maybe we'll do one per live show.
Oh,
you know what? I'll tease it. Next week, Obama. That's going to be the next impression.
Oh, we don't want to get canceled, Alex. Let's not go that far. I don't think we need to be doing Obama impressions on here.
Oh my gosh.
As far as the super chat goes, what do you think Adderley's ceiling is?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Good, hopefully. Like, I don't know what his ceiling. I don't know what his ceiling is. I don't know what you guys think his ceiling is. As far as the super chats, very nice of you guys. Raising Cane's Caniac combos did get a little bit more expensive. It was $13.53. Now it's like $14.80 something. So just a little bit more super chats. That's great for you guys. For us, I appreciate that.
Oh man, we're getting 2 Raising Canes here in Fresno, and I'm super excited. I know a lot of people on our live stream were hating on Raising Canes, but I love that place, man. I think it's fantastic food. All right, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for the super chats, and we'll see you next time.